Hello learners, I am Dr. Ruchika Kuba, Director School of Health Sciences and your course coordinator for the course on lifestyle and non-communicable diseases. Before we go through the sessions of non-communicable diseases and their association with lifestyle, let us in this session try to understand the concept of health and disease. Now, have you ever asked yourself what is health? Would you consider it as just absence of disease? Do you think it means only physical health? Or do we need to be also mentally stable to be called healthy? Do you think you need to feel healthy to be healthy? There are so many questions that may come in our mind when we think about health. And these questions have bothered men since time immemorial. So in 1946, the World Health Organization defined health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Hence, the meaning of health became much more wider than only physical health. Later, WHO further expanded this definition to also include the ability to lead a socially and economically productive life to this definition. Now that we have defined and understood what is health, let us try to understand what is disease. The simplest way to define disease would be to call it a condition that impairs normal functioning of the body or mind. And this will include all deviations from a normal physical, mental, and a social functioning. Let us try to understand the different dimensions of health. The most important dimension is the physical dimension. And any deviation in the normal functioning of the human body is abnormal and can express in the form of disease. This is the physical dimension. For example, an increase in the blood pressure, an increase in the blood sugar, or an increase in the cholesterol. These are all examples of the physical dimension. Similarly, any deviation in normal functioning of the human mind is abnormal and is referred to as the mental dimension. A mentally healthy person is one who is well adjusted and free from internal conflicts. We are also all aware about the social dimension, which refers to the ability to interact with other people in the society and to live harmony with them. Now, there are three more dimensions which are also considered by some people. One is the spiritual dimension, which refers to the religious beliefs and the social values of a person. Then there is the vocational dimension, which refers to the job satisfaction, the career goals, objectives, and the performance parameters. Closely associated with the mental health is the emotional dimension. While the mental health refers to the knowing or the understanding aspect of the human mind, this dimension deals more with the feelings of an individual. So, we can say that there are 6 dimensions of health: the physical, mental, social, spiritual, vocational, and emotional. You are all aware that a number of factors also can determine the health of an individual. Now, we are all very different from each other because of the genes we have. These genes also decide our chances of getting or not getting a disease. Very interestingly, genes also decide our personality and the choices we make in life. For example, with respect to the food we eat, the way we live, and this in turn determines our chances of getting a disease. For example, eating healthy food protects us from diseases. Eating unhealthy food makes us at risk to getting a disease. Another factor which affects our health is the environment. When we talk about environment, we generally refer to the external environment. This is the air, water, and soil. And this environment is also called the abiotic or the non-living environment. Pollution of the abiotic environment could seriously affect our health. There are also plants and other organisms and microorganisms which we often call the germs. These can also cause and spread diseases. There is also an internal environment which is very important as a factor for determining the health of an individual. The internal environment is dependent upon the lifestyle choices we make, like physical inactivity, stress, etc., which can also cause any deviation from health and result in disease. We all know that the society we live in has various social and cultural factors which can influence our health. For example, certain rituals and traditions like leaving the shoes outside the house, washing hands before eating food, fasting, etc. are so many of these traditions which are good and help us to protect from disease. But there are also some harmful traditions. For example, not giving breast milk for the first 48 hours to the newborn baby, applying cow dung to the cut end of the umbilical cord. These can all result in diseases in an individual. Similarly, we have socio-economic factors which can influence health, like employment, housing, education, income. These factors influence the decisions that people may make for adopting a healthy lifestyle and also for availing health care from a health center or a hospital. We come to the last but not the least important factor, which determines whether we will be remaining healthy or we may continue to get diseases. And this is the availability and the accessibility of health services. So the health centers may be available, but you may not be able to access them for many reasons, like high cost, like you do not have anybody to take you to a health center, the doctors may not be available. So the health services, even if they are available, should also be made accessible to all people at an affordable cost. Although there are many more determinants of health, we can divide most of them into genetic, environment, socio-cultural, economic, and availability and accessibility of the healthcare services. Now, risk factors of diseases. Like we just talked about the factors that determine health, there are also factors that increase your chances of getting a disease. These factors are called risk factors. Now, risk factors can be classified as modifiable and as non-modifiable risk factors. Modifiable risk factors are those that can be controlled or those that can be changed. And non-modifiable risk factors are those which cannot be controlled or modified. Let us play a small game now. Look at the jumbled words. Can you sort them out into modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors based on what I have told you about modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors? Let us pick them one by one and decide. Let's see if you can do it faster than me. The first risk factor I am picking up is diet. So, this is a modifiable risk factor. You can decide what diet you want to have. So, it goes into the modifiable basket. Let us think about race. Can you change your race? No, you can't. So, this is a non-modifiable risk factor. And here it goes into the non-modifiable basket. Family history. Can you change your family? And can you change your family history? No, alas, you can't. So, this is also a non-modifiable risk factor. What about stress? Can you manage your stress? Of course you can. So, it is a modifiable risk factor, and here we put it into the basket of modifiable risk factor. What about gender? Even if you want, it's difficult. Yes, it's difficult to change your gender, and most people generally do not do that. So, it also becomes a non-modifiable risk factor. What about exercise? It's totally a modifiable risk factor. It's up to you whether you want to or you don't want to do exercise, isn't it? What about advancing age or age for that matter? Your age you cannot change. So, it is a non-modifiable risk factor. Coming to medicines, it's up to you how many medicines you want to have or you don't want to have. There are at times when you really don't require medicines, but you do have them because you feel that you want to become healthy faster, or you feel that you will be able to cure your disease. So it becomes a modifiable risk factor. I hope you have understood that what is a modifiable risk factor and what is a non-modifiable risk factor. So you must understand that the modifiable risk factors are the risk factors which are dependent upon your choices, upon your lifestyle, and something which you can change. And so you can reduce the chances of getting a disease. Risk factors can also be classified in different categories like a behavioral risk factor. This depends upon our behavior and again is a modifiable risk factor. For example, the type of food we eat, the amount of exercise we do, use of alcohol or tobacco. Another category is the metabolic risk factor, which depend upon our internal environment of the body, like the high blood pressure. We can modify these risk factors to some extent because we can change our lifestyle habits and we can control these risk factors so that we don't get diseases, high blood sugar, high cholesterol. We have environmental risk factors which are dependent upon the external environment. For example, air and water pollution. These are also factors that can be very well modified. Now, have you ever thought that are all the diseases of the same type? Or can we divide them into two major groups? Yes, we can. You are all aware that there are some diseases that can infect us easily because they can spread from one person to another. These are caused by infection-causing agents that are generally small germs, and most of these we cannot see with our naked eyes. Such diseases are called the infectious diseases or the communicable diseases. Can you name some of these diseases? Maybe COVID, if you remember, common cold. When we say we are having a viral, these are all communicable diseases. And you know that they very easily spread from one person to another. We have another group of diseases which are called the non-communicable diseases. These are not caused by an infectious agent and so they cannot spread from one person to another. Can you think of some of these diseases? For example, hypertension. They are chronic and they are affected by factors like genetic factors, lifestyle choices, and environmental factors. Now, let us play again a game. Among the jumbled names of the diseases, let us sort them out into infectious and non-communicable diseases. Again, it is a competition between you and me. Let us see who can do it faster. Typhoid. What kind of disease is this? Yes, it is an infectious disease. So here it goes into the infectious disease basket. What about depression? Yes, depression could be a disease and it cannot spread from one person to another person and so it is a non-communicable disease. Let us put it into the basket of non-communicable disease. What about asthma? This is a tricky one. Is it infectious or non-infectious? Let us think. What do you think? Yes, it is a non-infectious or a non-communicable disease because it does not spread from one person to another. What about tuberculosis? Of course, I think you all know. It is an infectious disease. We are all afraid that we should not get tuberculosis from another person. Although, if a person has started his treatment, he very quickly becomes non-infectious. What about cancer? Yes, of course, cancer is a non-communicable disease. We can go and meet and sit and chat with people having cancer, but it doesn't spread from one person to another. What about diarrhea? Diarrhea is a infectious disease. What about diabetes? Yes, diabetes is a non-infectious disease. Epilepsy, again, a non-communicable disease. Leprosy? Leprosy is an infectious disease. Although leprosy requires a very long contact with the person, but yes, because it is caused by infectious agents, it is a infectious disease. So, I hope you could score all the points correctly and you have won the game. You must have often heard your parents say prevention is better than cure when they want you to protect yourself from falling sick. There are a number of levels of prevention. Let us try to understand why we have so many levels and what each level tries to indicate. The first level of prevention is the primordial prevention. This refers to actions and measures that do not allow risk factors to appear. We have just now learned that risk factors can increase your chances of a disease. So if there are no risk factors, naturally your chances of getting a disease reduces to a large extent. These factors under the primordial prevention could be environmental, economic, social, and behavioral factors or conditions. For example, a person who has never smoked in his life. So, there are very few chances that he will get lung diseases or cancers because of smoking. Again, adopting good habits in the childhood itself with respect to, for example, personal hygiene, washing hands, eating good and hygienic food, these all are also part of primordial prevention. Then we have the primary prevention. In such a situation, risk factors do exist, but the preventive action can be taken before the disease sets in or you contact the disease. Such action, therefore, removes the possibility that the disease will occur. There are two types of primary prevention. The first is called health promotion. These are broad and general measures to improve the health of the individual. They are also measures which help to improve the health of the community or the general population in a particular area. For example, environmental modification to prevent falls. Nutritional interventions. For example, you know that all the salt, most of the salt that is fortified has got iodine. So this helps to prevent goiter or a disease of the thyroid gland in the population or community where it is very much prevalent. Again, vitamin D supplementation. When you have a low vitamin D level, wearing of helmets to protect yourself from accidents. These are all part of health promotion activities. Then we have the specific protection. The specific protection protects us so that we do not get specific diseases. For example, immunization, addition of specific nutrients like the fortification, self-breast examination, pap smear for detecting cancer cervix in the women. There is again another type of prevention in the ladder, and that is the secondary prevention. These are actions which halt the progress of a disease at the very initial stage and so prevent the complications from occurring. And this includes early diagnosis and treatment. What happens if the disease has progressed to a stage of irreversibility and complications are present? We cannot apply the methods of secondary prevention in this. So, the strategy to prevent or the strategies of prevention at this stage is to limit further damage. And this is called tertiary prevention. There are two types of tertiary prevention. The first is the disability limitation. So, although the disease is irreversible, it thus reduces our chances of getting disability. The second is rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is the combined and coordinated use of medical, social, educational, and vocational measures for training and helping the individuals to attain the highest level of functionality. So, you are rehabilitated so that you are able to function as much as you can despite your disabilities or despite all the other side effects or the problems that the disease may have caused. So we have different types of rehabilitation. We can have medical rehabilitation, as you know, like the physiotherapy exercises, which you may need if you have suffered from a chronic disease or a disease which may cause disability. Then we have mental rehabilitation. in which you have been mentally disturbed, you are given psychotherapy or psychological support and help you to come back to your near normal state of mental ability. Of course, you have a vocational rehabilitation where you are helped so that you can come back or you are capable of doing a particular job. You also have social rehabilitation. If you have been cut off from the society or because of whatever reasons like depression or because of some physical inability to talk to people or go for social gathering, this social rehabilitation helps you to come back to the society and be an important and contributor to the society. Let us now come back to our playground and let us play the game again. So this time we are having 4 baskets. One is of primordial prevention, the second is of primary prevention, the third one is of secondary prevention, and the fourth is of tertiary prevention. Let us see which of these items goes in which basket. What about getting a blood test for checking the dengue antigen? What do you think? Yes, it will go to the secondary prevention basket. Early detection, early diagnosis. What about washing hands since childhood before eating food? Which basket would you like to put this item into? Yes, it is a primordial prevention because there is no risk factor. So there is no chance of getting a disease in such an individual from germs which may be there on the hands. What about having non-skid tiles in the bathroom? What type of prevention is this? Which basket should we put it into? Yes, it will go into the primary prevention basket. Why do you think so? Because the risk is there. There is a risk of slipping if there is a skid tiles. So we like to put non-skid tiles so that we remove the risk factor, and so this becomes a primary prevention. What about eating antibiotics when you are having pneumonia? What type of prevention? Is it prevention or is it treatment? Yes, it is also the secondary level of prevention where we are doing early diagnosis and treatment. Can you think why it can be prevention? It is prevention because you are trying to prevent the complications of pneumonia, trying to prevent the person becoming more sick or even dying. What about joining a cancer support group? Yes, this is a tertiary level of prevention because in this you are moving towards rehabilitating an individual by giving him social rehabilitation, social support. We come to the last one, screening for blood pressure. Can you think what kind of level of prevention this will fall into? Yes, it will go into the primary basket. It is specific protection because you are specifically screening for a particular disease, and that is blood pressure. The people may or may not have blood pressure. So you are trying to identify the high risk people so that you can give them the proper treatment and prevent further complications. So I hope that all of you got it right, and those who did not get it right understood why a particular item should have fallen in the correct basket. So in the end, I would like to say that while health has a very wide spectrum and broad definition, any deviation from the normal functioning of the body is called disease. While there are many factors which determine health, there are risk factors which make us more prone to get a disease. We need to work hard on the modifiable risk factors, since these are the factors which are determined by our lifestyle, and by modifying them we can protect ourselves from getting sick. There are also preventive measures that can be adopted, and the actions that can be initiated will depend upon the stage of disease or health we are at to initiate the preventive actions. We shall be learning more about the non-communicable diseases and the preventive and promotive actions for specific non-communicable diseases in our further sessions of this program. Happy learning, all my friends. Thank you.